Debbie Soon. I am an author. Was just over there at the Stuff.io booth, signing my book, Digital Mavericks. I also lead up marketing at Privy, which is a wallet infrastructure company, but today is really not all about me. It's also, my dog is called Guinness. But today it's not about me, it's about these wonderful gentlemen. We are here to talk about the intersection of blockchain and AI, which are obviously topics that keep coming up in the industry and in the news. So before we begin, I'm just going to hand it over to these guys to give a short intro about themselves.
I'm Luke Mulks. I'm a VP of Business Operations at Brave, yeah.
Hi, my name is Chris Johnson. I work at Virtuals Protocol. We're a tokenized agent launching platform, and I guess my official title is Swiss Army Knife.
Hi, I'm Navin. I run IQAI. We built the platform for launching tokenized agents for DeFi, for trading, lending, borrowing, and everything on chain.
And hi, everybody. Mark Osis. I am here with Deloitte's Office of the CTO. I do emerging tech research across AI, blockchain, and several other technologies.
Yeah, so I always love this because I think that blockchain and AI, sometimes they are almost pitted against each other. There is this narrative that like, oh, all of the crypto developers are leaving to go build an AI, or all the crypto founders are going to leave and build an AI because that's the hottest topic. And I think all four of you here have a unique point of view in terms of that they don't have to be mutually exclusive, and in fact, they can be very complementary. So maybe we'll start with you, Mark, because I feel like you sit in kind of a little bit more of a neutral state. You see a lot across, you see a lot of different companies. So I guess from your perspective, where do you see these two areas really intersecting, and what is the interest there?
Sure. These two technologies are converging and will continue to converge. Whether it be using AI coding tools to write smart contracts, whether it be having agents transact on your behalf using crypto, or whether it be using crypto incentives to power decentralized AI development, these two technologies are going to be largely intertwined. We work on a lot of technologies, whether it be quantum computing or robotics or space tech. These two are ones that I personally find very interesting, and I think the opportunity to disrupt financial systems as well as disrupt intelligence systems, they're on a parallel track of having a few key centralized players that are driving development and control, and disrupting them using blockchains is a repeated pattern that we're seeing from the inception of Bitcoin and now to some protocols that are rising up that others on this panel can speak more to.
Yeah. Luke, I'm going to come to you because I know Brave as a privacy browser, so that's like, and maybe my understanding is limited, but like I know Brave as the go-to default like privacy browser. How does that all link to blockchain and AI?
Yeah, so Brave is the privacy browser and search engine, but we also have integrated crypto wallet that's built right into the browser. It's multi-chain and all that. We also have a browser assistant, AI assistant built directly into the browser, and so it works a lot like ChatGPT or most of the other prompts out there. But now we're actually working agentic stuff in at the browser level. So like you can have something that's with you doing tasks with you in the browser, and I think as far as crypto ties in with this, there's a ton of use cases around this. You could be having agents that you're having pay for things with crypto. You can be self-funding kind of like a lot of the AI compute and stuff that you're trying to do. So it's just like super early, but we're already kind of breaking over
I guess how top of mind is that, like, I guess for the entire organization as a whole? Like, is that something that you guys are really focused on? Like, it's like a side project? Like, how does it rank in terms of the things that you guys are working on?
Yeah, it's a huge focus. We have a summarized AI answers in our search engine. It hits about 40% of all the search queries that we're doing, and so like it's already been something we've been using. And the AI assistant in the browser is like a huge area of focus right now.
Cool, that's awesome. And then Chris, I guess I'll come to you next because he mentioned agents. So that's, I think, for those of you who don't know virtuals, I'll let you explain it in your own terms. But when I think agents and I think, what they can do on the blockchain, I think my mind goes to virtuals straight away. So I feel like you're also in an incredibly well-positioned to talk about where this intersection is and how you're bringing these two areas together.
No, I mean, that's a huge compliment. We like to think that we exist at the intersection of AI, and crypto. I think that there's a lot of benefits to the agents having like on-chain wallets. Mm-hmm. Right now we're seeing everyone just build like all across the board. It's early days. I think we'll still see like what's like really going to stick. Every couple of months, though, it seems like there's like an agent team that'll come through, and like the product will get like more widely adopted. I think like one of the keys in that right now is creating like user interface that's like really, really clean and like easy. So I think like one of the most like recent examples of an agent I've seen is an agent called Mamo, which is a yield farming agent. And it's just very simple where you like deposit a stable coin, and it like autonomously moves like your money around for you.
Yeah.
So I think something like that, like AI and crypto like really makes sense. But in terms of like all the other like uses, like only time will tell.
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting juxtaposition because I think when we talk about virtuals, we talk about agents, so AI agents acting autonomously on crypto rails, and then we have Navin who does kind of like contributing to AI based on tokenized incentives, which is kind of almost like it's like the other side of the coin. So maybe you could share a little bit on, for IQAI, what does that intersection look like? Because they kind of intersect in a different way.
Yeah, I think how we see it is that AI is going to be a really important technology for the blockchain. There's a lot of challenges right now in terms of using cryptocurrency for DeFi. So there's 600 million people in the world who hold crypto on exchanges, but only 7 million people use DeFi on a monthly basis. And largely that's due to complexity. I mean, if you already hold tokens, you probably want to earn yield. But the challenge really is complexity, and AI is really going to help with that. Because AI can simplify, it can be a tutor, and explain basically every element of doing a transaction, or even handle those transactions for you as well. And that's what we've really been focused on with ADK at IQAI, is building out the proper framework and the proper MCPs for people to build really powerful agents, connecting to DeFi, connecting to existing cryptos.
So I think we're going to stick on this topic for a little bit because I think one of the things that's always been challenging when you're working on kind of emerging tech is that we're all still trying to figure out what the complexion of all of these things look like. Sometimes it's a little bit of limitations at the infrastructure level that we haven't quite got to the point where we have the right infrastructure to make all of these usable. Sometimes it's more about we have the infrastructure that makes it possible, but we are not communicating effectively enough to the user, or there isn't enough awareness at a user level to really be able to put some of these into practice. So, Navin, since we were with you, maybe I think from what you're seeing, do you feel like this whole discussion around the intersection of blockchain and AI, especially as it relates to IQAI, do you feel like the limitations there are more infra-related, user-related, narrative-related? Where do you feel like some of the challenges in adoption are today?
I think the biggest barrier for fully fusing AI and blockchain is that AIs are not really fully on chain yet, and a lot of that has to do with composability. With DeFi, you can have lending protocols that are fully on chain because you can see the outputs, you can see the assets that are held in a liquidity pool, but you don't really have AIs that are running fully on chain. You can't see the outputs of the AI. AIs are kind of like a black box at the moment, but the solution is called AI VM, AI Virtual Machine. So the idea is the same way you have Ethereum virtual machine, you have people building smart contracts on top of each other, like Curve building on top of ETH, Convex building on top of Curve. The same thing is going to happen with AI. So that's one of the technologies we're really excited about, and we're working with Frax. IQAI is working with them to build out AI VM for Fraxtal. So that's been really exciting. I think that's going to unlock the real kind of DeFi revolution in AI.
And then Mark, obviously, like you said, you guys work across all sorts of different technologies, including quantum computing, which I wouldn't even pretend to even really understand what it is. So I think from your perspective, having seen across many different businesses, where do you think there's this saying where it's slowly every day and then all at once kind of thing. And so from your perspective, where are you seeing that bottleneck, and when do you think we'll get kind of our all at once moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. If we could take a step back and go to Bitcoin's inception, right? Those of you in the audience know a lot about this. It was an effort to disintermediate centralized large banks who controlled the financial systems and give the rights to the users to transact peer-to-peer. And over time, this Bitcoin network, through proof of work, has become the largest computing network in the world by a factor of over 100, right? And even in today's race of big tech companies looking to acquire more GPUs to power the AI movement, still the Bitcoin network is the largest network of computing power. However, its primary function is to secure the network, right? SHA-256. What if we could repurpose some of the computing power on a network like Bitcoin, but direct it towards some sort of AI training or inference or some other infrastructure background? This is something that a project I see called BitTensor is doing. And if I could leave you guys with any one thing today, obviously Chris on this panel here today is from Virtuals. That was the first legitimate AI blockchain protocol that I came across and fell in love with it. BitTensor is another one that I would commend to you guys as using crypto incentives for AI decentralized development. And that could be, as you've said, kind of that suddenly and then all at once moment.
Well, Chris, he kind of called you out there.
No, it's good, it's good.
But I think virtuals, definitely, like I said, I think whenever I think AI agents, and I think about people wanting to back AI agents and kind of be invested in their success, my mind immediately goes to virtuals. At the same time, I think we can all acknowledge that crypto, for as much gain as it has made over the past several years, and I think in particular this past year with the legislation changes, is still fairly niche, right? So I think awareness of virtuals is still kind of relatively limited to kind of crypto native audiences. I guess, where do you guys sit in terms of, I need to get this message in front of more people? Is it about capturing more mind and wallet share within the folks that are already in crypto? How do you think about balancing that? And is AI that wedge? I'm just curious as to where you feel again, as we talk about mass adoption, where do you feel virtuals fits into that picture?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a team, we have a couple of different products, right? So what we're most well known for, what you're alluding to, and I think a lot of people know us by, is by our Launchpad, right? So where people can come in and launch their tokenized agents. So there's all these teams, like Mama was the example I gave earlier. They just got listed this week on Coinbase. So some of these agent teams are taking very large steps now, and getting out there in front of I think outside of our traditional virtuals audience. In the same sense, we're also doubling down and really, because when people come and they launch a lot of these agent ideas, they come in with these ideas they want to just do these very broad kind of companies. And agents a lot of times are they're almost like a baby when they're launched. They're like a young child, where a young child wants to be a firefighter, right, a rock star, and a veterinarian, right? Yeah. And so as the agents develop, they become a lot more specialized. So what we're really working on now is something called Agent Commerce Protocol, which is basically these agents working in these organized clusters.
Interesting.
So I think we're it's very early still in the process. It's great that all these people are coming together and building in AI and crypto. But I think what excites us most internally is agents coming together and working in autonomous businesses.
Yeah.
So people always talk about autonomous agents. Autonomous businesses are the next frontier.
Yeah, and then I feel ironically, it's you have the opposite side of it in that, okay, how many users does Brave have today?
We're at, I think, 94 million monthly active
users.
users.
So I think that would be probably, I think anybody working in crypto would love to have 94 million users. So you have kind of started on that other side of the spectrum, but are now kind of looking into where do you add on, and obviously I think privacy matters a lot to folks that are dealing in crypto, but then now, like you mentioned, you're floating into AI, into all of it. So how do you see, I think from your perspective, you have that distribution. Obviously there's more that can be done, there's more market share to be taken, there's more market penetration to be done, but I guess how are you viewing the role that blockchain and AI plays into furthering some of those goals?
Yeah, I think there are different use cases that are still to be developed, and I think that with crypto and AI, you have two kinds of different market approaches. Where AI is weird in that you have mandates from C teams to put it everywhere, and not a ton of market fit yet. Mm-hmm. And I think that on the crypto side, you just have a lot of demand from this native audience and more use cases that it can plug into that are established. And so it's kind of an interesting problem set to try to get these things to work together. But I think fundamentally it comes down to what are the use cases that are helping to provide value to the users in a way that they're going to use every day? Like, what are the ones that matter to them, and like, how can we bring them forward to that user with keeping it a user-first thing, having the browser is a user agent, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's kind of like extending the agency of that user agent and kind of like making it really useful and kind of turning out a lot of noise. And I think crypto's a natural fit with this because, you got to fund these things. We have a global audience, like dealing with a lot of that kind of like fiat issues, cross-border, whatever. Like, we can just make stuff run natively, nice, and kind of extend that out like beyond there.
Cool. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about kind of, again, what I consider two sides of the same coin, which is speculation versus incentivization. And that, I mean, Navin, I'll come to you first, and that, like, we talk about having tokenized incentives to get people to contribute to a protocol, to get people to contribute to what we want to be a desired outcome. And on the flip side of that also comes the bit about speculation. And I think a lot of the critique that this industry gets is that, it's all driven by hype and speculation. None of it is long-lasting. Like, I guess, where do you kind of sit? Or how do you distinguish between the two, or if there is, like, a distinction?
I think that there definitely is a lot of speculation, obviously, in crypto. But I would say that's the same in any boom town. Any booming industry. We can go as far back as the railroads. There was a ton of speculation there. There's a lot of overbuilding there, and then there was a bust, but I think it turned out okay with the railroads. So I think it will be very similar for crypto. I think that obviously there's a lot of speculation, but speculation creates demand and it creates interest. The only reason people build, oftentimes, outside of their own enjoyment, is often for the financial side, right? So if you can see that there's agent protocols that are booming, that's going to draw in investment, that's going to draw in users, that's going to draw in developers. So I think a lot of people, they just tune out anything that involves speculation, but speculation is tomorrow's reality, basically. That's the way I would look at that.
And suddenly the irony suddenly dawned upon me is that we're having this conversation in Las Vegas of all places, where like I think the speculation, the gambling bit is what brings a lot of people here in the first place, and part of it is the enjoyment. Chris, obviously, a lot of speculation around a variety of like AI agents. Like you said, not every single one of them is a legitimate business or a legitimate idea, but I guess how do you distinguish between this is just, like empty promises, like something that would go up for like 10 seconds versus something that is legitimate and actually something that's worth investing in for the long term?
I mean, I think like on our platform, like we've tried to make like the teams like much more like able to be transparent and like show like their vision, who they are, their background. I think that like if a team is able to come in like before TGE and actually share like, okay, here are like our tokenomics, like we're gonna lock this up for this period, like I think that like really helps like the transparency in all of it.
Right. And then Mark, I don't know if you have a view, because I feel like you probably have to take a very like maybe more conservative approach to some of these use cases. But I'm curious. Maybe you're not as conservative as I would as my initial kind of assumption.
Sure. I mean, Deloitte is a brand that's built upon a reputation of trust, right? We're a tax and audit organization largely, and so I don't know that our business as a whole is going to encourage users to speculate. However, I will say one of the benefits of blockchain and cryptocurrencies is it gives access to everybody to invest in these early stage companies that without blockchain and crypto might be reserved for only the select few to invest in and see that value appreciation. So it is a democratizing tool, but not without risk.
Yeah.
And something I'll add there too is like, I think it gives people a chance to invest in teams. Like with what we see, like the landscape is like moving so quickly that like teams will come together and like launch like with a certain product or MVP, but then 3 or 6 months later have, found another pinpoint or transition to something else. So I think what's nice about it is it gives like, democratizes, the opportunity for people to invest in early stage like companies and therefore the teams behind them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Luke, maybe this is a little bit of a curveball, but I think a little bit like when we're browsing the internet, I think one of the topics that kind of comes up is a little bit about like advertising, right? And I think like obviously, Brave being a privacy first browser, How does that kind of fit in with, I think now there are a lot of monetization models and people like experimenting with like ads that are powered by your on-chain identity. So, they kind of make it seem it's a little better because, you still own your data and technically we're still monetized. It's a little bit of a roundabout, I guess, argument in some ways. So I'm curious as to whether you have a view on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've never been anti like advertising as a way to get commercial messaging out. I think it's all been about first principles, like if you respect a user and kind of can create a form of advertising that doesn't, allow everybody and companies you've never heard of to like capture your information and profile you and all that stuff, then we've actually built ad products around that, right? I think that with AI, it's interesting because it's changing the way people search, it's changing the way people consume content, it's going to change the way that the advertising business works, and it might radically change it. I think that we're in a really disruptive, transformative time, but if you're not experimenting with these things right now, then you're just gonna be behind. And so I think businesses are always gonna have a need to get what they're doing out in front of people. Maybe that's related to the context you're in, whether you're working with AI or just browsing the internet. But yeah, I mean, we've even been using like AI in our advertising models since like 2017, 2018. So it's something where now there's a lot of hype around it. But I also think it really comes down to like, is it effective? Like, is the company making a message that's worth it, or is what they're doing good? And I think honestly, kind of touching on what you guys were saying earlier, like, we've been in an environment where you couldn't really experiment and get market fit. Like a lot of the stuff was speculation because there wasn't a lot of other things that founders could do without having big risks of being slapped with a enforcement action or something like that. So it's really cool to see things warming up and like people being able to experiment more with this stuff right now.
I love that. We're starting to come up on time, so I'm going to go one by one, and we'll start with you since we just have you. So I think, what is your big prediction, I guess, over the next 12 months? And obviously things change every single day. But if you had to make one big prediction, something that you're bullish on, again, let's kind of keep things positive. Like, what do you think is going to happen over the next 12 months that kind of speaks to this trend of blockchain and AI like converging?
I think the agentic side is going to blow up. I think it's like a really, I think there's going to be ways that agentic's going to help you to it's going to help us to get past friction for onboarding. It's going to help us do things. And when you add that with like something like stable coins, like and the ability to kind of have easy transactions and support for that, it's going to be like huge.
Chris, your bullish prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 12 months, but I think it's not far off where there's going to be more like agents with on-chain wallets and humans. So yeah, probably not that much further off than 12 months.
And Virtuals is going to be powering all.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be around for sure.
I actually have a fun anecdote to add to that. So like I've gotten really into vibe coding. Like I'm not a technical at all. And one of the things that I did actually was to actually create an on-chain identity for my dog. I set her up with a wallet, and then I also put in like a logic where she could like autonomously tip people. If they said something nice to her, she'll tip them like 25 cents in USDC. And it was actually kind of wild to me to see that like happening. I'm like, wow. I mean, obviously I set limits and everything, but I think it was like the first time where I personally felt that, wow, that like we've come a really, really long way. So I'm excited for that agentic commerce and everything with wallets. Navin, like, what about you? What's your big bullish prediction?
I'm really bullish on robotics. That's going to be the next big thing. ChatGPT has taken LLMs to the masses, hundreds of millions of people. We haven't had that moment in robotics yet, but robotics are going to be that moment for the physical world. The same way we innovate in crypto very fast, we can ship. We want to bring that to robotics. So we're building out some MCPs. We're planning some stuff on the robotics side. We just bought our first humanoid from Booster Robotics, and we've set aside $1 million to buy a ton of Tesla Optimus bots as soon as they come out.
And Mark, like I don't know if I want a Deloitte view or I want your view, but you're welcome to share. Oh, if they differ, but I'll leave it to you.
No, I appreciate that. I love the robotics call out, and obviously agree with the agents call out as well. For the sake of something different, I'll come back to what I shared earlier of BitTensor, the Tau token. I really believe in this network. Funding 128 different subnets right now, and that number is going to grow. I really believe that's going to be a relevant player moving forward at this intersection.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I feel like I learned a lot. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful audience, everything that you know, and we'll see what happens 12 months from now when we're all reunited here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoying Rare Evo? Then lock in your spot for next year right now. Rare Evo 2026 is already in the works, and it's going to be even bigger. More chains, more builders, more connections. Tickets are live. Go to rareevo.io/2026 to grab your early access pricing before it's gone. Don't wait. Be first. Be part of what's next. We'll see you at Rare Evo 2026.